Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a little bit different than my usual endeavors, but today I'm going to be ranking each killer from Dead by Daylight based off of how good the title of their name is. So by title I mean, say go down here, Springtrap. In the game, he's called the animatronic. Now, is that a good title? We'll have to find that. Okay, let's start with Trapper. His name gets things done, right? It's very literal. He is a trapper. I mean, that's what he does. It's he's a real jobber in that sort of sense. So it goes in the C tier because it's kind of eh, eh, you know. Okay, we have Wraith. Um, I do like that a bit better. I think I'll put it in B tier. I'm gonna move Wraith up because after looking it up, Wraith is, it's something you see right before death. That fits really well. And also it's an invisible specter, which is also something he's pretty good at. Well, it's not really nice to call him a hillbilly. He's a redneck, so that's the proper way. I'll say B. I does get the point across. I mean, he is quite literally a hillbilly, but he's also a smarter guy than people give him credit for. Usually, hillbilly is a negative connotation, so it's a good B tier. Nurse, yeah, that's a nurse. That's definitely a nurse. I don't know what else to say. I think I have to put it in. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Oh, it's so good. The shape. I am so glad that they went with this name. It's a callback to the his first movie where he's not Michael Myers, he's the Shape, and he's credited in the credits as the Shape. Um, just an amazing, amazing name. He's he's not even human. He's just a blob of evil. You can't even describe him when he's too far away to describe it. He's just looking back at you. He's a shape. It's amazing. It's so good. It's way too good. It's oh, that's everything. We have the Hag. S tier after doing a little research. Um, a hag is an old witchy woman. But a hag is also a location in a swamp or a quagmire. She is from Backwater Swamp, so that's really good too. I'm not sure in lore if she's an older woman, but I like the double meaning with hag and hag. So I'll put that in S tier. The doctor, yeah, that's a doctor. Huntress. I'll put it in B. They could have gone with the hunter, but they had to add this. So huntress, kind of rolls off the tongue there. So I'll put her in B tier. The cannibal. I'll also put the cannibal in B tier. It is kind of sad that he gets to take that name because that would have been a perfect title for Hannibal Lecter if he ever decided to show up in the fog. The nightmare. I'll go with A tier. This isn't my Freddy. I don't think this is anybody's Freddy. But he does do some pretty nightmarish things, and also he is a living nightmare in your nightmares, so it's pretty fitting. Put Pig in D tier. I don't really care for that. I do understand, but I felt like in the Saw movies, the pig can really kind of be anybody who's working for Jigsaw. Um, I would much prefer if she was called something like the Devout or something like that, because Amanda is really devoted to Jigsaw. Her servitude to a higher power. Pig is just, she's not really a pig. She's a woman. It would be really cool if she was an actual pig, though. A clown. That's definitely a clown. There's not really much I can say. He's a clown, and he kills you. Spirit. Well, I know that Spirit's name is definitely not referring to alcoholic beverages, but I might actually bump her up, just because you could also use it as spirit as in your mood, in good spirits. And she's obviously not in good spirits, she's in bad spirits. A spirit is also a ghost or a specter of that can appear and reappear. So that also is very fitting. Kind of similar to Wraith, but I like Wraith a little bit better. Legion. We'll put Legion in A tier. Insanely cool name, but I'm afraid the killer's power does not back up how cool that is. Just being a bunch of teenagers doesn't really help with being a Legion. What's a Legion? You think like Hellspawn, or you think of Exorcist 3, which would have been a much cooler killer than Legion. Sorry, Legion, but it's still an amazingly cool name. The Plague. I will put Plague in A tier as well. Plague. I mean, it's cool to just be described as you and yourself are the plague. Think of plague. I think of something not biblical, something holy, something religiously powerful that can wipe out entire nations. And I think that fits with her character very well. The Ghost Face. I think I gotta just put it in D. I'm not a huge fan of when characters like this are just named, what we know them as. Yeah, he's the Ghostface. I would have preferred something like the Stalker, something like that. Also, a little bit of a beside. This is the best Ghostface ever to exist, even in the movies. He's my favorite. Such a cool character. The Demogorgon. Yeah, it's a Demogorgon. Not the Demogorgon from actual D&D, which is like a monkey octopus guy. This one is Stranger Things original Demogorgon. It's a cool word, the Oni. I will bump that up. I think I'm going to put him in S tier, but I think I'm actually going to put him at the top of S tier. The cool thing about him is that he's actually, in his lore, he's called an Oni, and he fucking hates that. Um, and that's really cool to me that, they even mentioned that his title in this lore. His skin is also blue, like typical Onis are either red or blue. The legends there said they could even the worst of humans could transform into an Oni, which it seems it has happened to our friend here. The Death Slinger. I think I'm gonna put him here. It's just a made up word. It's Gunslinger would have been a much cooler name. Um, but Death Slinger is like a portmanteau um, of Death and Gunslinger, and it's kind of goofy. Now, I'm not sure if I really like the name Executioner for Pyramid Head. I feel like he's so much more of, he's so much more than just like, when I think of an executioner, I think of someone who's just a brute force kind of guy. I mean, he is a brute force kind of guy, but he's also, he's mystical. Um, yeah, there's some deeper magic to him. And, but I mean, executioner is still a pretty darn good name for our friend here. He is a he doesn't really even execute anybody in the Silent Hill 2, but he does get actually not any lasting executions, but um, it fits into the themes of Silent Hill 2 and some of the actually that name would fit really well. Actually, the name does fit pretty dang well now that I think about it, so I'm actually going to put him at the top of B tier. Now, our friend Blight, I'm going to have to put an S tier. Blight is one of the coolest words in the English dictionary. Even saying it, it means something just terrible and awful. Twins. They sure are twins. Twinniest twins that I've ever seen. Trickster. Ugh. We're not a comic book villain. We can't be called the trickster. Um, it's just an awful, awful, awful name. I know people don't really like this character. I don't mind him. They could have gone with something much better like the Idol. I think that would have fit a lot more. But there's nothing really in his lore that you know backs up the fact that he's a trickster. Um, and it's just like it's such a comic booky name. It's just not very good. Nemesis. Now I know I said I don't really like when characters are just what their actual name and then with a the at the beginning, but the Nemesis. Ooh, that's so cool. Um, Nimi is he is your nemesis, and I mean the whole RE3 is named after him. Um, he's the subtitle of that whole game. He's your adversary, chases you down the entire time you're playing that game, and never lets you rest. It's really cool. It's a good name, the Cenobite. I'm gonna bump it up a little bit. Actually, I just learned a new word today. I'm going to bump him up to the top of A tier. A Cenobite is somebody who lives in a religious monastery. So that is very fitting of Pinhead. He's the leader of the Gash. So very cool. I thought it was a made up word, but it's not. I love to learn things. So thank you for that, Pinhead. The artist. That sure is an artist. I do like how it kind of fits into how she's kind of a self portrait of herself in game. She obviously didn't look like a giant bird. The Onryo. My beloved Sadako is going in S tier. And she is an Onryo. An Onryo is a Japanese spirit, usually a woman, very vengeful. They can cause problems with the weather. They come back for vengeance. Very, very fitting for her character. Dredge is, I think I'm gonna have to put it in golden. Very, very, very cool. Cool. Cool name. So a dredge, I first thought it was he was similar in naming scheme to the Hulk from Marvel Comics because Hulk is named after a giant like ship or vessel that's just kind of ugly and range shackled and worn down. And I thought, oh, dredge is named after the things that they put in on the bottom of the ocean to like find things, like gold if you're like looking in a river or creek. But it actually means to like search through things and to find something, to like thoroughly search. It just sounds cool. It's a very strong name. The Mastermind. I'm gonna put him in B. Uh, Nobody ever calls him the Mastermind. I bet people. I might even surprise some people, and they're like, "Oh, that's his name. He's the Mastermind." I thought that's just Wesker, and yeah, he is just Wesker. But it's a fitting name. He is the the man behind a lot of things in the RE games. Um, he's not the Mastermind. He's Albert Wesker. So yeah, just you put him in B. The Knight. It's a knight. All right. He they could have done something similar um, with Legion and called him the Watchman because he's got his boys with him. But he's a knight. Now that I think about it, he's not just a knight. He's got his ghost guys. So C tier. Skull Merchant. It's a pretty cool name. It's like a Manhunter, but why didn't they just call her Manhunter? That would have been so much cooler. I'm not as mad as this with this kind of comic book name because that's what she's kind of going for, some Brazilian manga stuff. But it's just not my cup of tea. It's like portmanteau, like with old Deathslinger here, but it's not bad. It's not as bad as Trickster. Singularity, very I will say it's pretty good. A singularity is like an oddity or a quirk, something that's very one of a kind. And I will say Hux is pretty one of a kind. Kind of sounds sinister as well. That something's wrong with that. The xenomorph. I'm gonna. I know it's another one of those. It's just what it is kind of things. But you get to learn a little bit. Xeno is alien morph. It can metamorphosize. Could have called it the alien, but what if they want to make their own alien? The good guy. I really don't like this one. I'm. I don't understand why not just call it the doll. Um, that would have worked a lot better because then you wouldn't on the Tiffany legendary skin you wouldn't have to call it the good gal because I don't know I haven't seen Bride of Chucky, but I'm pretty sure she's not a doll called the good gal. Uh, like her packaging, but the doll would have been great. You wouldn't have to switch things up. Could have kept things a little simple. I just don't really like it. They don't call it. They never really mention that he's a good guy. It's just kind of there. I can't remember if they really mention it that much in the TV show, but I mean, it's all right. The unknown. Roll the clip.
What is that? It's the unknown.
I'm gonna put unknown in A tier. It doesn't help that that stupid Willy Wonka thing happened around this time when he came out, but it really helps with just his entire personality, his entire character, his entire lore. He's you don't know anything about him. He is unknown. He is the unknown. He, is looking him in the eyes. You have no idea what will happen. Just like the unknown. I actually kind of convinced myself to put him in S tier. Uh, oh, and also his perks, all having being words with un in them is pretty fun. They should do that more. The lich. A lich is a corpse, and this guy is definitely a corpse. A desecrated corpse. The poor guy has been roughed up pretty bad, but nothing. Death definitely did not stop that guy from doing what he needed to do. Lich is definitely a very scary word. Um, and when you think of lich and it's a dead body, it's a pretty powerful dead body. The Dark Lord. I'll put him in A. He is the Dark Lord. He is Dracula. They could have called him the vampire, but Dark Lord has a more vibras, not vibras. It's more regal, and Dracula's definitely a regal guy. It sadly means that if Darth Vader does ever come to the game, he cannot be called the Dark Lord. Pretty good name for old Drac. Houndmaster. Another name I'm not very fond of. For her power, there's not really a great thing you could have gone with. I think this is the best one. I always call her the Dog Walker, um, which definitely would. It's not as scary as Houndmaster, but she definitely is a master of hounds. So good for her. Now I have a bit of a blind spot for Tokyo Ghoul. I'm not as familiar with it. I do like the name Ghoul. I know that Kaneki is, he's a cannibal, and ghouls, are folklore, and their folklore they desecrate graves and eat corpses. And I would say, and also they have a morbid interest in shocking things. So I haven't really seen the show or manga, so I'm not quite sure if that's true, but it seems pretty fitting for someone who kills people. I would say the animatronic. Now, this is where I'm expert. Springtrap is probably one of my favorite characters to ever exist. And I really don't like the animatronic as a name. No, he's not really an animatronic. He's a guy in a suit and he's spring locked. I mean, I guess in Fazbear Frights they thought he was an animatronic, but I think a more fitting name would have been The Attraction. It's a much more theatrical name for the old theatrical William Afton. And I'm pretty sure they call him that in FNAF 3, The Attraction. And I think that would have been a greater name. If he's the attraction, he's the main show. He's not just another animatronic. He's the main man, and he is the main man. But he's just a lowly animatronic here. The Krasu. I'll put her in B. You get to learn a little bit about. You get to learn more about Southeast Asian folklore. Krasu is a really, really cool folklore beast. It's a woman who can just detach her head and her organs and limbs fly around with her. And I'm not very familiar with like I'm familiar with Akarasu, but I'm not deep into the lore of the creature. But I know they're nocturnal and they're cannibals, and they're usually attached to beautiful women, which is true in this case. I know her power is. I'm not sure. It might be. I bet they did their research and it ties into Karasu, but still a really, really creepy folklore creature. So that was a B tier. The first. I think it's pretty badass. I stopped watching Stranger Things at season 4. I think there's 5 seasons. So I didn't really get to learn much about this guy. I guess that you go more into him at the last season. But I mean, oh my god, you're right. He is the first. I didn't really know what else they could call him. Um, and it's kind of annoying that we have two Vecnas. Two is better than one. The Slasher. S tier. I know Jason is not the start of the slasher genre. Um, that would be like Black Christmas or even Mike Myers up there. But if anyone deserves the title of like being called the slasher, it's Jason because blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of blood. There's definitely a lot of blood, and they are pretty frisky at Camp Crystal Lake, so maybe some other fluids too. The slasher, oof, very good. I would have preferred if he was called the Revenant, but the slasher is still so cool. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I just wanted to do a. Maybe I'll do more tier list videos. Pretty fun to do. Hope you enjoyed, and I guess I will see you later.